This episode of Hero Movie Podcast is sponsored by Geek Fuel. Go to geekfuel.com/hero movie to receive your free box today. We'll have details on that later in the show. And of course, we're also brought to you by the lovely people at Patreon. Patreon.com/HMP. Join one of the many who get our pre-show, post-show, get to vote on the movies that we watch, and so much more. That's patreon.com/HMP. Thank you guys so much. Let's get into the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse, and I'm joined always by Sean Keenan.
Heidi would like to know why Hollywood insists on making Rihanna an actress.
And of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I've been called a mule replicator on more than one occasion.
Indeed, we all have from time to time. That's just pretty much everybody's go-to insult for everyone. Today we're going to be covering Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets, a comic book movie that I don't think many people knew was actually a comic book. But as you know here on the show, we'll always kind of get to the bottom of that and talk about these things. And if it was worth going to see for you, and according to the box office, most of America did not think it was worth going to see. But we'll tell you if you missed out on something or not.
Strong fifth place finish.
Yeah, on a gigantic budget, man. So yeah, $209 million for that production budget, $17 million domestic. Youch.
They'll make it back international.
Yeah, international. Luc Besson usually does pretty good international. So yeah, it's from Luc Besson, the guy who brought you The Professional, of course, The Fifth Element, and Lucy, of course. Yeah, that was his last really good one.
Yeah, I know a guy in Panama. Can't wait to see this movie. So I think they'll be big in Panama.
Panama, you say? Yeah, who am I to fight it? But you know what I'll never fight? The people that drop on down to the iTunes and give us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And I am excited about this one. It is entitled My Go-To Podcast. It is by Dehige. All right, how do you say this one? Dehige.
Dehig.
There you go. All right. Like I said, my go-to podcast. I'm subscribed to other podcasts, but will generally listen to whatever HMP has to offer over those podcasts. Great reviews, different perspectives, and the comedy has me coming back over and over again. Love the Stallone connections in every episode. Also, I listen to these guys while I'm in the car with my kids and without the fear of over-the-top vulgarity. Keep up the good work, guys. That is from Dehage, 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger. Thank you, Dehige.
And let me tell you something. That is our 99th review on iTunes. So next one of you out there, you're going to be the 100th review, man. Put us up in the triple digits, man. We really, really like that. So if you have the iTunes there, or if you're like one of the many people that are out there and go and actually sign up for the iTunes, review us, and then delete it off their iTunes, those are the real heroes right there.
Now, were you at least a little tempted to go into some Jay-Z when you said 99 reviews?
We got 99 reviews, and all of them are bad but one. Or all of them are good but one, rather. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I got 9 reviews, and Dr. Dan Do was one. But you know what? Here's the thing. I tell people all the time, I'm like, we got such a stellar record for the reviews and everything, but as much as that bad Dr. Dan Do kind of sticks in my craw, we've gotten so much mileage out of the Dr. Dan Do, you can't be angry.
Are you kidding me? There was about a year there where all I had was Dr. Dan jokes.
Oh, man. I remember the George Thorogood references that were tied into the Dan Do jokes.
Oh, and here's the fun part. Like, for people that are new to the show, you'll go back and you'll get these things, because I hear that from listeners all the time, that if they come over here from Preacher or wherever, they're like, oh my gosh, I have such a great back catalog to go through. And then they kind of, it's like going back in time and learning the HMP lore. They're just like, oh, and I finally got this. You guys were talking about this. I didn't understand what that meant, but later on I heard this one and I'm like, oh, it all makes sense now. And honestly,
that's the fun.
And the funny part is I've also talked to other people, and without really even knowing, let's just put it this way, some of them can actually, without our prefacing it with anything, can tell our lives have changed. They just go, I listened to this one episode and I was like, oh.
Oh, boy.
I'm like, something is different here. And I'm like, oh, I think I've put this all together, because I think we hit it fairly well. But boy, if they go back and listen, they can find out some of the dark HMP past.
Oh, man. And of course, there was the beautiful email from the poor guy who is an actual doctor named Dan Dew, like in Texas or somewhere. That's like, you can imagine my surprise when people said they talk about me.
Somebody said, hey, why are you bad-mouthing this thing? It's like, I've never heard of this before in my life. He goes on and hears his own name being railed against. That is, oh my gosh, that's still one of the funniest things ever.
And while I do love George Thorogood, I don't quote him on a daily basis.
Not if you're smart, you don't. Very litigious, that George Thorogood. I'll tell you that much right now. He gets into it. He does not care. He's on you like white on rice, boy. He's just like, well, I'm sorry, what was that? Why don't you come on over? We got problems. Oh, man. So, again, thank you so much for the reviews there. And if you want to, go ahead and email us at hearmoviepodcast@gmail.com. We always love hearing from you guys as well. Well, let's get on into it, kids. It's a comic book movie that not a whole heck of a lot of people knew was about a comic book, but, you know, that's what we do around here. Here is the trailer for Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets.
This mission is a simple in and out. Agent Valerian, you'll be running solo.
I only work with my partner.
Hi.
We're a team. Let's go.
You're running nearly 20 minutes late.
Yeah, well, time flies when you're having fun.
Welcome to Alpha. The city of 1,000 planets, where for hundreds of years, every species has shared their knowledge and their intelligence with each other. It's paradise.
Amazing.
Because the wind is high, it blows my mind.
After centuries of peace and prosperity, an unknown force wants to destroy all we have created.
Agents Valerian and Laureline, you have less than 10 hours to find the threat and eliminate it.
Let's get to work.
The whole universe is after us.
We need the two of you to be the guardians of our future.
You sure you know what you're doing?
Valerian, trust me.
How much time left?
Your destiny is in your hands.
I taught him how to do that.
All right, that was a trailer for Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. It is our new release review of the week. Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. A dark force threatens Alpha, a vast metropolis and home to species from 1,000 planets. Special operatives Valerian and Laureline must race to identify the marauding menace, safeguard not just Alpha, but the future of the universe. This is written and directed by Luc Besson, starring Dane DeHann, Cara Delevigne, Clive Owen, Rihanna, Ethan Hawke, and more. And like I said, this is a flick that not a lot of people A, went to, or B, actually knew was a comic book movie. So we've got to do what we always do around here.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you got for the old comic book connection this week, sir?
Well, I've never read Valerian comics, but I've seen some of the images. I've seen some of the artwork, and it's pretty cool stuff. I ran across a great story about Valerian comics on Comic Book Resources, so I thought I would share an excerpt from their excellent article, and here's what they had to say. Valerian first appeared in 1967 in the pages of Pilot magazine, an anthology series published in France, written by Pierre Christin and illustrated by Jean-Claude Mézières. It tells the stories of Valerian and Laureline, two spatio-temporal service agents who work together for Earth's government in keeping the universe safe and the time stream clean. So this is me talking. Just to make that clear, I want everybody to understand that in the comics, they are time cops. Now, the story that the movie is based on, Ambassador of the Shadows, the entire plot is that Valerian gets kidnapped and Laureline spends the issue running around the Point Central space station trying to save him. Together, they explore the universe and get mixed up in crazy adventures along the way. Sparks often fly, usually from his stubborn insistence on leaping into action, fighting against her natural instincts to be more peaceful. She's the perfect foil for him. The series served to popularize the sci-fi genre in French comics and provided inspiration to countless other creators and movie series, the most notable being George Lucas' Star Wars. Okay, so that's the end of the excerpt I have, and I just want to say that the comic ran until 2010, giving it a 43-year run, which is pretty impressive for the same creative team. Valerian in the comics, I've looked at the pictures. He is a square-jawed guy. By the book's hero, his partner, Laureline, combines her superior intelligence, determination, and independence with some darn fine chowder buckets. Some people have pointed out possible Valerian storylines in a movie called The Fifth Element, but I think that's probably just a coincidence. Also, there was an animated television series called Time Jam, Valerian and Laureline. This was released, I think, in 2007. I watched a little bit of it on YouTube. It's anime, and it looks okay, but boy, if this movie had been called Time Jam, I think it would have doubled the box office. Now, the original setting for the series was the 28th century. Humanity had discovered the means of traveling instantaneously through time and space. Earth itself had become a virtual utopia with the emphasis on virtual, with most of the population living a life of leisure in a virtual reality dream state ruled by the benign technocrats. And that sounds a little bit like Matrix, don't it?
Wee bit.
Now, the initial stories were generally straightforward, good versus evil adventures. However, thanks to Pierre Christin's interest in politics, sociology, and ethnology, as the series progressed, the situations started to come more from misunderstandings or ideological differences between various groups that could be resolved through reason and perseverance. The adventures are not about defeating enemies any longer, but about exploring, facing challenges, and celebrating diversity. Kind of sounds like Star Trek there. Now, probably it is the most influential sci-fi comic of all time. The question is, why didn't the movie play in Peoria? Oh, and also, I forgot to mention this, but in the comics, Laureline is a peasant girl from 11th century France, and I have to say it's kind of tough to picture Cara Delevigne as a peasant, isn't it?
Yes, especially since she comes from German royalty, yes.
A baronet in the family.
And that was one of the interesting things about this movie kind of going in that, God bless him for his thoughts, but Luc Besson was like, you know what? I want to make sure that this can have more of an appeal to American audiences, so I'll get to, kind of more American mainstay actors and not more French-type actors, and that will draw in the people. Whoops.
Well, man, I was kind of mentioning Fifth Element, but the artist from Valerian, a guy named Jean-Claude Mézières, he was hired to do concept art for the Fifth Element. And according to what I saw, he actually talked to Luc Besson one time, and he said, "Why are you wasting your time on this expletive redacted movie? Why don't you do something good like Valerian instead?" So at least Jean-Claude thinks that Fifth Element is inferior to this, at least in terms of source material.
He's wrong.
But the original draft of Fifth Element, Luc Besson was working on it, and he kind of stalled out, and he went and made Leon, the Professional, and took a few years off. And during that time, Valerian did a storyline that involved a guy that drove a flying taxi cab. So Jean-Claude sent that story to Luc Besson, and that's when he decided to make Corbin Dallas a cab driver and rewrote the script, and then it finally got made. So, there's some pretty strong influence from the Valerian artist on Fifth Element.
I don't know enough. I don't know enough about Valerian. I mean, I've never until I heard this movie was coming out. I didn't even know there was a comic book tie-in to it.
And the guy, one of the guys, there's always more than one guy on a big scale thing, but sort of the lead visual effects guy from the Phantom Menace kept a complete collection of Valerian in his workspace while he was working on some of the settings there. And if you just look through images of some of the Valerian comics, just go, Google them and look at some screen caps, you can definitely see that influence in the Phantom Menace, more so than the original trilogy. I think it was around 1980. Pilot magazine had a cover that had Valerian and Laureline meeting Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia in what essentially looked like the Mos Eisley Cantina. And Luke says, "Wow, fancy meeting you here." And then Laureline says, "Actually, we've been here longer than you have," or something like that. So, it was big in Europe, I guess. It's a contemporary comic of Barbarella, but it ran much longer than Barbarella did. Like I said, probably the biggest sci-fi French comic. The only thing that could probably even come close is Barbarella, as far as I know.
Not overly versed in the French comics, but I'll say yes.
Asterisks, and that's about it, right?
Exactly. So now this will obviously, I think, most easily be compared to Besson's Fifth Element. I mean, just from a stylistic standpoint and everything. And I'll say this, it's always been true with Besson. He makes a absolutely beautiful looking movie.
And the Fifth Element was the third most expensive French movie ever made, and this movie's the most expensive French film ever made. Number 2 is Asterix, which I already mentioned before. I think it was called Asterix at the Olympics, that apparently cost like $120 million to make, and I didn't know it existed. Another comic book movie to add to our list.
Well, there you go. It never stops around here.
So can we just do generalities at first? Do you guys mind about that?
I think that's great.
So here is my thought on this movie, is that this movie is not great, but it's also not bad. And it seems to be getting trashed by a lot of like nerd sites. Mm-hmm. And I don't really understand that. I get that the characters, the two actors as the main characters, are not well suited for these roles. You need to bring in someone else for the two mains in this movie. Mm-hmm. The overarching plot of this movie is also, it doesn't even need to be there, quite frankly. The joy of this movie has nothing to do with what's happening plot wise. It's what's happening in the background. The first 5 minutes of this movie is some of the best movie making I've seen in a very, very long time. But the second you start setting up the plot to this thing is where it starts falling apart. And, it's not Dane DeHaan's problem that he's not well suited for this movie. He's just not that guy yet. Like, I think that eventually he has the ability to be a leading actor, and he will be great someday, but he's just not there yet. And so he seems to be one of those younger actors where he needs to have the right part or he just shouldn't do it, kind of a thing.
And I don't like to dwell too much on the negative, but kind of my takeaway from Dane DeHaan's performance, who I've normally liked him, though I haven't necessarily liked the movies he's been in. But my takeaway from here is he has like the worst aspects of Leonardo DiCaprio and Keanu Reeves wrapped into one person.
That is a really good way of putting that, man. That is exactly what it's like. And I know he has a great performance in him. We've seen it a couple of times before with him. I cannot tell you whether or not Cara has any sort of talent at all as an actress. I don't know if she does.
See, here's what's interesting because like I'm on that same boat, and I think everyone will pretty much throw up their hands unanimously in saying Enchantress was one of the the worst parts about Suicide Squad, an already movie that most people have a lot of problems with already. She was hands down the worst part. And she Paper Towns I saw her in, fair in that, but again, it's just and for the longest
did you see her in Paper Towns? You saw that movie?
I did.
Oh. I know somebody who worked on that.
So yeah, some talented gent. I don't know, but so I saw that and I was just like, but over the time I've been seeing all of her acting and stuff like that, and I go, gosh, it feels like maybe she has no personality. I've seen her in a couple interviews and stuff. Doesn't have a ton of personality, but most recently to obviously. Sell this movie, she was on Hot Ones. Now, if you haven't seen Hot Ones, it's a YouTube show where it's interview style, and you go through progressively hotter wings as you go through the interview. And honestly, and I like that show because it opens people up because their brain is not quite in the right place. So I think they're a little bit more free with how they act and whatnot. And
before you go any further, did she make her manservant hold the wings for her as she ate them?
I wouldn't have been surprised. But she was pleasant on that, and I'm just like, wow, it seems like you have a sense of humor, and you can you're still a little posh, but still it feels like there's a human being underneath there, and I'm just not seeing that in her acting, and it kind of makes me sad.
And I've got a question for you too. You mentioned you've seen her in some interviews, and she grew up in London, and I don't know that there's anything about this character that requires her to have an American accent. And with an actress who, let's just say, maybe we're already questioning her abilities and her range, could the director maybe have gotten more personality out of her if he just let her speak in her normal posh English accent?
She doesn't have an English accent.
No. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. She has an American accent.
Now that I didn't know, man, because I saw that she grew up in London, in a really wealthy part of London, so I just assumed.
Nah, she's a regular person. I got you, London.
London burn!
I say that, but they're outside of the U.S. and Canada, they are probably our second biggest constituent over there in that bit of Europe.
Are you kidding me? If I had the money, I would live there today. Right now, as I'm talking to you, I'd be Skyping from London if I had the money.
Well, because I know, she had a really, really, really train wreck interview with like a news channel when she was promoting Paper Towns, and her defense was they didn't get the dry, laconic British style of humor that she was using. So I just assumed that in her natural state, she probably doesn't speak in an American accent.
Well, here's the thing. Like, in God bless, she grew up in the fashion world, and usually you don't got to yap your gums, Yeah. You stay quiet.
I mean, she was in London until she was 16, so I'm saying that accent, even when you see her in an interview, is fake. That's not how she talked at 16. There's no way.
Well, I've spoken to her offset before, and she spoke to me with an American accent. So I'm guessing she has one, but I don't. Maybe
really she's doing the Christian Bale kind of method thing.
It could be. That very well could be. But
so are you telling me that
to her, she had an American accent?
So are you saying that the Enchantress was like the character was a bad actress?
That I like.
I'm staying.
Man, we're going super meta on this.
I'm staying in the whole time, bro. I'm going deep.
So here is because there's a couple of things with this movie, and it has to do because I know we've been kind of walking around this movie so far, and I'm going to continue walking around it because one of the things that's been making me shake my head are the reviews of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the nerdy reviews of this movie? They want to set this movie on fire, and I think that that's a complete and utter mistake. This movie feels to me like one of those movies where, because it's not it's not perfect by any means, but there's so many ideas in this movie that when you smash cut to 10 years later, this is going to be one of those things where you revisit this movie and you're like, I wonder why I was so hard on this thing, because at least they're trying something different here. And as I've said to you guys a million times on this show now, I don't hate bad movies. I hate mediocre movies. And there is nothing mediocre about this thing.
It goes all out. I mean, it is, like I said, Besson's just known for it, but it's an absolute visual spectacle that is so good. I mean, when you go, oh, it's $200 million to make this thing, you see where every penny went.
Yeah,
it's constantly looking good.
And I hate to bring it back, but I just, while you guys were talking about that, watched Chelsea Handler interview Cara Delevigne, and she has a British accent in that interview.
Oh, there you go. So then she does have a British accent. I did not know that.
Or either that, or maybe she's a better actress than I ever gave her.
Well, I'll just put it this way: like I saw her in the Hot Ones. There, I don't remember an accent, but maybe I'm so progressive that I just don't notice accents.
Yeah, that's a possibility. No, the more interesting thing to me is that Sean talked to her in person off set and couldn't pick it up. But I just watched the Chelsea Handler interview while you guys were talking.
He's calling you a bad detective.
No, I think she was going super method with paper towns.
She could have, because that's what happened on Homeland also, is that Damian Lewis spoke with an American accent every time he was off set just so he wouldn't lose it. So that's a very real possibility.
And I mean, most folks don't know that I was born in New Zealand, but I try to do this so much that now it's just how I talk naturally.
Man, you are really doing a great job, but it does explain a lot of the pronunciation coming out of your face.
That's true.
Actually, if you heard my early life accent, you would understand even better.
You'd be like, this boy can read. I'm surprised.
Humble beginnings, that fella. Humble beginnings.
Visually, man, there's no question. Luc Besson knows what he's doing visually. When he was pretty close to being done with an early draft of this movie, he basically ripped it up and started all over because it was the same summer that James Cameron released Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
And when he saw that, he's like, okay, so he's just turned things up to 11, so I got to go back to the drawing board. And I think that maybe he took some of the wrong messages away from the success of Avatar. Like, we all know that story is lazy storytelling, kind of stupid, but he's got his own unobtainium in this movie. You know, that he's got his own sort of Na'vi in this movie. I mean, I think that the Avatar influence had a negative impact on this film.
I agree, although unfortunately there's no internet tree in this movie like there is in Avatar. There's no monkey cats.
That's true, man.
Yeah, we got the aliens at the beginning. That's about as close to monkey cat as you can get.
Although
I think the biggest weakness is that framing story. Like, I really have fun with that opening sequence where he goes to the big market. And then I also kind of like this Alpha Space Station, and I like the little prelude they give us to the building of this Alpha Space Station. But it falls apart when they're really trying to wedge some kind of story that's bigger than it needs to be with these pearls. That's the actual name of the race of people, the Pearls of Mule. When he's trying to wedge that story in, there's a problem. And also there's some huge, and it really shows up at the end, some huge character inconsistencies where I feel like the director didn't really think it mattered what the characters' motivations were. It was more about what was convenient for that scene. Some less than stellar writing that I have to blame on Besson since he wrote it in addition to directing it. And I think the thing that we haven't mentioned is, you know, this is no chemistry, man. No chemistry
at all
between these two leads. And we're supposed to see this as this sort of, I think in Luc Besson's mind, he's picturing it like the back and forth. What was that movie with Renee Zellweger, Down with Love, where there's this real clever back and forth between the leads? I think in his mind, he's picturing that that's the chemistry these two characters have, but it is not coming across on screen.
This shows.
I like that movie. I like Down with Love.
Yeah, my mind went to like His Girl Friday, but you know, I just go for the.
Also, well, that's also a great movie as well.
Or the chemistry that Woody Harrelson and Rosie Perez had in White Men Can't Jump. That was good.
That's also a good movie.
Yes.
Let's just start naming good movies.
But I don't see it. from what I can pick up from the comics, I really imagine that Valerian was sort of supposed to be Sean Connery with the Prince Valiant haircut. Laureline, an 11th century peasant who gets taken to the future and turned into a time cop. You can imagine that she should be bringing like some innocence and fresh perspective to the situation, which I don't think Cara Delevigne is bringing any innocence or everyman perspective to this. I just really kind of, and 60s sci-fi is really cool, and it can be really fun to have a nice kind of just lighthearted sci-fi romp with the 60s aesthetic, including the back and forth. Like, once again, I'll compare to if they had the kind of chemistry. Who was it with Renee Zellweger in Down with Love? Was that an English actor?
Yeah, it's Ewan McGregor.
Okay, yeah, something like that would be great. But they would have to cast this better. Like in my mind, like dream casting, not so sure who I would pick for Valerian, but I could picture Anna Kendrick really bringing what Laureline.
Oh, wow. What a great pick, man. Yeah, she'd be great in this.
And, there's a bit of an age gap there, but I could also see John Hamm being a really good, like old-fashioned act first, think later kind of leading man to be Valerian here.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I like it.
But one bit of cast. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what comic book property, American comic book property, this movie reminds me of is the cop who's the ranger. I can't remember the name of it now. Oh man, I had it and then I just lost it.
Walker, Texas Ranger.
No, yes, that's exactly right. He's a space ranger, and everyone's been killed except for him. That's every space movie ever, isn't it? I'll look it up. You guys keep going.
You ever heard of this Luke Skywalker guy?
I think Buzz Lightyear was the last of the space rangers.
Okay. Well, while Sean is looking
killing me, Leslie, killing me.
While Sean's looking that up, we're gonna pause here for half a second because we got some news for you guys. This episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Geek Fuel. Now, Bruce, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I get if I said, "Hey man, you give me $6 and I'll give you $50," what would you say to that?
Let me think about that a minute. I've got the calculator.
All right.
Oh, hold on. That is $44 more. I'll do it.
Sounds like a great deal. Perfect. And if you would like to take your $6 and turn it into $50 worth of goods, head on over to our good friends over at Geek Fuel. Now, if you've never heard of Geek Fuel is doing something. They're a subscription box like a lot of other people out there. These guys do it a little bit differently. You're going to get stuff that you actually will use. That's a lot of nice fun stuff that you get from these people, but a lot of it's like little tchotchkes and stuff that you sit up and it starts collecting dust. Now, they may have one or two of those items, but most of it's going to be stuff that you're actually going to use. Now, Geek Fuel is doing something that none of those other geeky subscription boxes have done before. Get this. You are going to be able, we're offering a free box to anyone who wants to try them out. All you got to do is just pay shipping and handling. That's $6 domestic, $12 international. So even if you're an international person, you're still getting a ridiculously good deal. Now, they're so confident that you're going to love the service, they want you to try that out for free. So to redeem your free box, I want you guys, this is very important, write this down, go to geekfuel.com/hero movie. You can only redeem that offer by using that link, okay? Geek Fuel, that monthly box for gamers and geeks and all kinds of stuff, $50 worth of value for around, $15 plus is what the regular thing is. Think Comic-Con in a box. Great, just it's curated. It's curated. That's what they do. Every single month they go, what do these nerds want?
I didn't have my pencil ready, but I've got to get this deal because, man, this sounds too awesome to be true. I'm worried if I don't get it right away, it's going to go away. So give me that information again, please.
You're absolutely right because this is for a limited time to the end of the month. We want you to do it ASAP here. It's geekfuel.com/hero movie. Every single box comes with an exclusive t-shirt, a full downloadable game, and a total of 5 to 7 geeky items. Frequently used brands there, of course, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, all Harry Potter, all that kind of good stuff, man. So it's exactly, honestly, if you're listening to this show, it's what people want. And like I said, it's cool things. Get this. One time they actually sent out like a cutting board that's shaped like an NES cartridge. So it's Pac-Man salt and pepper shakers, Game of Thrones dragon egg toothbrush holder, Zelda Master Sword phone charger. It's stuff that you'll actually end up using,
Now, Now, man, I have to apologize because sometimes I'm forgetful. Sometimes I don't always remember what you're telling me. Is there any chance you could maybe put a link to this in the show notes or on Facebook or something?
Well, wouldn't you know it? We're going to link it there. We're going to link it in the show notes. We're going to put it on the Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of good stuff, because the people over at Geek Fuel they've got a little bit of confidence in us, and they know that our listeners are going to be the types of listeners who cannot turn down an amazingly good deal. I mean, $6 for $50 worth of stuff. I mean, a T-shirt alone. Because usually it's a T-shirt, comic, and that kind of stuff. T-shirt alone, you're going to pay $25 for someplace, right? Comics these days are around $5. If you get a game, that's at least $5 to $10. The amount of stuff that you're getting for the low price of $6, and honestly, you're going to dig it so much you're going to continue to go on, man. And that's what's cool. About this guys.
I'm worried because I have a cousin who lives in the United Kingdom, and I have another cousin who lives in France. What's the international charge? It probably goes up to $100.
You would think so, because honestly, it costs a lot because you have to put them individually on ferries to get them across. But get this, it's only $12. $12, it's absolutely ridiculous. So to get this exclusive deal and help them help us, you know what I'm saying? Because they took enough out of their day to just say, hey, HMP, these are the guys that we want to go with. So head on down to geekfuel.com/hero movie and join it up today, man. And I want to go a little bit further. This isn't something that they require, but honestly, I know that the people that listen to this show are hardcore people. We got a hardcore crew out here. Why do you think we got 98 at this point, 5-star reviews on iTunes? You guys are hardcore. Once you get it, tweet it out to them, man. Let them know that you got it. Let them know that you got it from HMP. They'll know you got it from the link and everything. But show them a little extra love. Tell them you appreciate them supporting this show, man. So we like to thank our friends over at Geek Fuel, geekfuel.com/hero movie. All right.
Hashtag 99 humdingers.
99 humdingers. Okay, so let's get back into
Fear Agent.
Fear Agent.
Never heard of it.
The comic book Fear Agent by Tony Moore and Jerome Pena. It's an awesome book. It took place it was written probably about 20 years ago. Anyway, the concepts are crazy. The main character is like this grizzled old guy. It's just terrific. Anyway, the reason why it reminds me of it is for facts like this. So watching this movie, my favorite thing about this entire movie is the ideas like in the background that are happening. So you have like the fact that to stop shoplifting, the only way you can go into a store and obtain something is through a wormhole, like stuff like that. That's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, cool, man.
That is 1,000 times more interesting than what was going on in the plot of this movie.
Now, another bit of casting that I'm real curious about is Herbie Hancock. Mm-hmm. Because I'm a Herbie Hancock fan. Back in the 80s, probably my favorite music video for a solid 2-year span was a Herbie Hancock video. But my question is, do you think for 30 years he's had an agent actively sending his headshot out looking for the right movie roles for him? Or how in the world do we end up? It just seems so off the wall to have Herbie Hancock in this movie.
Well, he's in a lot more. He's acted in a lot more things than you realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's kind of entertaining, man. He brings a little feeling of levity whenever he shows up. Especially when Rihanna's character Bubble turns into him and he's kind of got his shoulder slunched and his finger pointing. He's a lot of fun, man. I need more Herbie Hancock in movies.
It feels like Keith David was busy. So they were just we got a guy who's pretty good. He's a pretty darn good solid second. They're just like, Herbie Hancock? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, Keith David can't come to France, so we got him.
Yeah, he's been in 10 movies.
Yeah.
That's more than I realized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he was fine. It was weird. Clive Owen's in it for 5 whole seconds. Just seems
more than that.
Well, relatively.
And I gotta say, man, I'm impressed that Clive Owen has allowed himself to age. I mean, he honestly looks 15 years older than he did 15 years ago, which is an uncommon trait sometimes with actors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, usually it goes the other way around where they look better now than they did 15 years ago.
And then they hit some kind of cliff where you see them and you're like, oh my God, what happened to them in the past year? You know what I mean? It's like their deal with the devil runs out and all of a sudden they have to get their full aging in 6 months. It's this weird phenomenon.
It's
Looking
like
at you, Tom Cruise.
Charlize Theron looks like in the new Fast and Furious movie. Charlize Theron looks like she's 28, and it's like, how is this even possible?
Well, isn't she
get ready, man, because that clock is ticking on her too.
Yeah.
Oh man, but then you get people like Kevin Costner that his high school yearbook photo he looks 42. So
very true.
He's got a pack of Marlboro Reds.
He was like in his early 20s on the Electric Company, and he looks like he's 55 years old.
Yeah, I mean the very first role that Bruce Willis ever had, he's already got that receding hairline. So,
well, that's why when John Hurt died, it was just like, oh, well, yeah, he's looked like he's 70 since 1978.
Right.
Now, these three little guys, these three little information brokers,
mm-hmm.
The little guys with kind of the trunks on their face, a little bit of a duckbill at the end of a snout.
Duckbill platypus crossed with an elephant kind of thing.
Yeah, and
tiny.
She calls them pigeons. Well, these three characters are called the Sioux in the comics, and I looked at pictures, and man, they are like very, very faithfully reproduced in the movie here. And I thought that was a nice touch. I guess maybe that was one of the favorite things for Luc Besson from the comics. But I thought they were kind of a nice little addition in the way that they behaved in the movie. Apparently in the comics, they're kind of fond of Laureline.
I like their addition. And like a lot of times when you get that fully digital character and everything, it either works fantastic or not at all. And this one worked really, really well.
Better than Howard the Duck in the original movie.
Explain.
I kind of think whoever rendered those would be good to have on board for the Howard the Duck reboot that we all know is inevitable.
No way that they do it.
He's into
Howard the Duck and Man-Thing. Oh, great team up. Just waiting to be.
No way.
You don't know what's in this next wave.
One of the things I had a lot of fun with, too, is when Valerian has to use that spacesuit that he has that has a little bit of a retro aesthetic to it. It still has kind of the bubble helmet, but it turns into apparently like an Iron Man suit, and he's just running through walls and everything. Particularly in 3D, that sequence was a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, so you did see this in 3D?
Yeah.
Yeah, what about you, Adam? Did you see it in 3D?
I saw it in 2D, and I was lucky to get audio that was listenable in the theater I went to.
I did not see it in 3D. I don't like 3D, so I just didn't see it that way.
I tend to, and that's kind of the weird thing.
Now, was this shot for 3D, or is this all post conversion?
It's probably all post these days. They've gotten so darn good at it. Like pretty much every Marvel movie that comes out comes out in 3D, and the 3D is actually really, really good on them. We've come a long way in under 5 years or so of the technology getting so good for the post production 3Dization of movies and stuff that they just keep on going. They've gotten so good at it. So I don't think. I don't, unless you're doing something very, very specific, I don't know that there's a real reason that you would actually go and shoot in 3D because it's just so much more work.
Did you have fun with that sequence there, Sean, with him running through the walls and going all through the space station?
No, I thought that was cool. Again, man, anything involved with the background of this show, and you get to see a lot of it. Like, he runs through that garden, he runs through the shop, like. That's all great to me. Like I love seeing that stuff. This movie is almost one of those things where it might be better having it on in the background and just on with the sound off.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is going to really have a nice long lifespan as like the afternoon movie on a Sunday on TNT that you just kind of put on, but you don't necessarily have to watch. I mean, essentially, that's kind of what's happened with Fifth Element to me is I'll have it on and just kind of notice it's there. Then I'll make sure and pay attention when the opera singer comes on or when Chris Tucker comes on. Like I know the scenes I want to watch, and then the rest, I just kind of watch them passively.
That's the thing I want to bring up here is the Fifth Element specifically. So I don't know if you guys remember or not. People couldn't stand the Fifth Element when it first came out.
I remember.
I'll be honest. I'm still not a huge fan.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
I love that movie, but
I think it's okay. But I'm probably in between you two guys.
But there were a ton of people slamming that movie, and now those same people who when that movie came out 15 years ago. Those same people
20 years ago, I think it was 97.
97. Those same people who were slamming it 20 years ago are now the same people who are like, well, this movie isn't the Fifth Element. And it's like, dude, you didn't like the Fifth Element when it first came out. And so when when you're hearing all these nerdy nerds like, I hate this movie and I hope it catches on fire and I can't stand, those people need to calm down because this movie, it's not a great movie. This is not something that is going to change your life, but it's okay. And 10 years from now, the people who are screaming about this movie are going to be saying, oh, I've always liked this movie because of all of the ideas in it, because there's so many, it's so crowded and noisy. That's another thing with this movie is there's just so much going on that it's
very ambitious.
It's almost secondary to be following the movie along. Hey, can we go? Like, I kept thinking to myself, like, can we go back to that last thing? Because I want to see what was going on in the background.
Like, and I can't help but think, because this Space Station Alpha is such an interesting concept, I can't help but think of all the more interesting things going on while we're following these two characters.
Exactly.
And I can't help but wonder what's going on back at the big market now that we're at the space station. Like, I want to catch up with that Jabba the Hutt voiced by John Goodman now. I kind of want to know more about the Gungans, which I don't know what else to call this group of people that try to eat Laureline's brain and everything. Like, I feel like there's a lot more interesting stories behind and around the story. Like, what is the plight of this race of people that Bubble comes from? Like, man, they could really do a good story where you can trust no one because there's some kind of scheme being put up by the glamour pods. Is that what they're called?
Something like
that.
The persecution of the glamour pods because no one trusts them because they can look like anybody and they would make such good spies. Like, I think, wow, you could really get a ton of, this would be a great movie to base a 40-year series of comic books around.
Or just a small, one of the problems is that we're introduced into this universe, first thing, gigantic, everything's huge, everything's on fire, instead of seeing a very small, quiet part of this world first.
And it's so cool. I mean, first of all, Rutger Hauer is the president of the United States. How can you go wrong there?
First of all, he is not the president of the United States, Adam.
I believe that's what he's listed as in the credits, or the international something or other.
President of humans.
Okay, president of the world's. Hold on, I don't have this whole thing.
He's the president of the World State Federation.
Whatever, it's all the same thing. Tomato.
Oh, my friend.
But
there are a lot of tomato lovers that are angry at you about that.
Yeah, that's true. Those tomato guys, though, they're on board. But I mean, I like that. I like the whole, David Bowie and like just the progression over so many years, being able to see. I thought that was such a cool thing that nobody's, at least to my knowledge, really kind of done. Showing
and
us,
I'm kind of surprised that having a Space Oddity and a sci-fi movie isn't like totally played out because, man, it really feels good watching
it. It was so good.
Yeah. Agreed.
So let's talk about the bubble bit because you did mention that a little bit there. And Sean at the top of the show said the thing that we're all trying to say is, why are we trying to make Rihanna happen as far as an actress goes?
I think it was the only way they could get Ethan Hawke.
I love Ethan Hawke, but he's also a weird cat that will just do some odd things from time to time. And I think he was just like, can I dress weird as crap and act funny? And they were like, yeah, sweet, I'm on board.
He's like, hey, I've got my Halloween costume from when I went as Johnny Depp last year. Can I just wear that?
Come on board.
He would be the perfect replacement for Johnny Depp in all those Pirates movies.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I really enjoyed Ethan Hawke's small part in this movie. I thought it was fun. I like Ethan Hawke.
No, he was fine.
I'm a Hawke-anatic.
I'm Hawke-genarian.
Jolly the pimp.
But he was good in that. But like Rihanna is obviously a beautiful looking lady, but I just nothing about it. I was just like, well, maybe she's a robot, and then of course she's an alien, and I'm like, is that the excuse we're using?
The jellyfish alien.
Yeah,
she's kind of like putting Rock in your movie. If she's in your movie is doomed. Remember the guy who played Rock on Fox? I can't remember his name now. Older bald black guy.
Charles.
Dutton.
Dutton. Charles S. Dutton. Yeah.
Okay, now I know who you're talking about. I was lost for a minute. I thought you were talking about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I was just quietly biting my tongue.
That guy's gold.
That man makes a lot of really good movies. Only one real bad one so far, or at least one that people didn't go see.
but the you put Charles S. Dutton in your movie's doomed. That guy is just poison. And he's a good actor, and he seems great. It seems like the only hit movie he ever had was Rudy. Like everything else you put him in. You put him in the Alien franchise, he literally tanked a franchise, for God's sake.
If Charles S. Dutton and Taylor Kitsch were in the same movie, they'd wrap shooting and then just burn the footage.
But Rihanna seems to have that same heat. I mean, when you look at what her acting credits are, like it's just like a who's who of things not to see.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know she'd been in more than this because I avoid Rihanna movies, I guess, without knowing it.
See, you've got a bias and you don't even know it.
Here's one thing I want to say, though, about Rihanna is I feel like her little dance up on the stage for Valerian there, I feel like it gave me an uncomfortable glimpse into what Luc Besson really fantasizes about, and I'm uncomfortable with some of it. That guy's kind of weird, man, because you know that it's not like there's not some kind of test audience that told him what sort of erotic costumes to have her wear up on the stage for Valerian. This is all like what Luc Besson thinks just drips eroticism. And, going with the Liza Minnelli cabaret costume, that's a classic. You can't go wrong there. Plus, big surprise, French guy likes Liza Minnelli. But then, man, it starts to get a little weird with the schoolgirl costume, gets a little weird with the Catwoman bodysuit. I don't like knowing so much about Luc Besson's bedroom habits.
I wish I knew more.
I want detailed letters.
That way I know where his soft targets are.
And why not just, you know what? Just do it. Just go for it, Luc Besson. Have her dressed as Lilo for just a second on stage there.
You might have sold more tickets.
Because I got to tell you, the best thing about
if she shows up in this thing and it's like a spiritual sequel, then you definitely have more eyeballs on this thing.
There are people out there that have postulated, because they don't know where this thing comes from, is that they are in the same universe. And if they were, it'd at least give it again. People would have probably went to go see it.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been that hard to do. To make them in the same universe. But
sure.
Then again, it'd be kind of like, I don't know, you'd just be, if you're Luc Besson, you probably have a bit of a dream of an ego that thinks you don't need to pull that trick to get people to come in. I still say name the movie Space Jam, or not Space Jam, Time Jam, and go with that.
Name it Space Jam, and it's got nothing to do with animated characters and Michael Jordan, and see what happens.
Yeah, but Time Jam, you cast Michael B. Jordan.
Before.
You cast Michael B. Jordan and call it Space Jam 2. But
Ticket bought.
I don't know, man. There's fun to be had here. I don't understand why he felt so strongly he needed to make a Valerian movie and then steered away from the time travel. That'd kind of be like paying big money to do a reboot of Back to the Future, and it's all about a guy that drives around in a DeLorean stopping bullying, and there's no time travel.
Well, the movie already cost $200 million. This is like, is it going to cost more to go back and forward in time? Or
look, they're in that spaceship talking to Alexa or whatever that artificial intelligence is called.
Alexa, very high quality.
And all you got to say is, okay, we need to go back 30 years for this next assignment, and then boom, there you are.
Oh, I love it, Alexa.
And they did mention that the planet was destroyed 30 years ago. You saw him getting the wave from the princess when she died, so they could just say, okay, our vacation 30 years in the past is over, let's go back to our mission. All you need is a little bit of dialogue to let me think, okay, so they have a time ship here.
Speaking of Alexa, you realize that they've also just greenlit a movie with The Rock and Siri. I kid you not, that's a real thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that Tom Cruise's little girl, Siri?
No, the actual Apple Assistant.
Is that Black Adam?
That's the Black Adam movie. Which, by the way, that is also like, hey, we're gonna do a Shazam movie. Guess what? No Rock, sorry. And I'm like, wow, that's they Edgar Wrighted him on that one, boy.
So
what are they
anyway?
thinking?
I don't understand Warner Brothers. You cast the guy as a character with no vehicle to go in.
Geniuses is what they are.
Well, man, I guess we need to wrap it up, but just real quick, what do you think of the stormtroopers in this movie, those K-Tron units?
They're cool. I mean, I love everything about the design. I mean, as many years on as we are, removed from things like Star Trek, and we can still continue to get great designs for aliens, things that you've never seen before, is so amazing. And I love it so much.
Yeah, I like the K-Tron units. I thought it was a cool way to go.
Yeah, everything about this movie except for the main characters and the plot of it was great.
What a weird thing to have as a problem, though. All right, now, before we get down to the final grade for this and everything, we have to ask ourselves one of the most important questions any human being can ask themselves is, how does this movie relate back to Sylvester Stallone?
Ah, man, thanks, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Oh, Rutger Hauer, what would I do without you? When you're reviewing a movie that was entirely produced by French people, with the main stars being two young people who haven't as of yet worked with aging Italian icons, which might have meant no Stallone connection at all, what's one going to do? Even people who worked on the crew of this movie have never had the honor of working with a man that I have no doubt would never in a million years return my phone call, no matter how far we climb up the internet celebrity ladder. But I look up, and there you are, Rutger Hauer. Like a life raft made of old man good looks and a weird accent no one can place, reaching out to me in the dark like some sort of beacon, which I desperately needed, but did not know I would need to ask for. Rutger Hauer is a good actor. My favorite movie of his of all time being Blind Fury, where he plays a blind guy who beats the hell out of people. And I haven't seen it since it was on premium cable in the 90s because I love that movie and I don't want it ruined by seeing it today. Rutger Hauer is someone we've mentioned previously on the podcast. He plays the role of president of the World State Federation. And he's also mentioned in our Superman 3 review of HMP, which any right-minded person will tell you Bruce was stunning in. I know this is usually the spot I would make a joke or some sort of slight to Adam, but not this week. Adam deserves better. So I'll just say this. During this Superman 3 retro review on HMP, Adam was probably there, but I don't remember. So good job by you, Adam.
Yeah.
Oh, also, Adam, haven't you been on every single episode of HMP?
I think so, yes.
I think you have. Bruce can't say that. I can't say that. But Adam has, even though I can't remember. Rutger Hauer worked with Stallone in the 1981 movie Nighthawks, which was where we learned the two men do not like each other. Hauer has been working in front of the camera since 1968's Monsieur Hawadin, I'm going to say,
Very good.
which seems to be a comedy about a woman dressing as a man, but whatever language it's in, I don't speak it, so I don't actually know. He's in a lot of foreign movies with names like The Blonde Love Machine and Turkish Delight, which sounds like softcore adult movies all day. Never really understood the concept of softcore. It's kind of like watching preseason football. Yeah, they're doing what you want them to be doing, but not really. Not really. And that's your Stallone connection this week, Bubbles and Jolly the Pimp. Let's review this movie, then forget about it for 10 years, then remember it, watch it, and say things like, hey, you know what movie isn't all that bad? Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets.
All right, so let's get down to it here on Hero Movie Podcast. We have our own Crazy Robin rating system. If you'd like to check that out, head on down to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the screen. Go ahead and give us a like. We're like 2 likes away from 2,000 people. Come on, make my dreams come true. Bruce, where does Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets fall in the HMP Robin rating system for you, sir?
Despite not caring much for the framing story, despite not caring much for the leads in this movie, I still think it can have some fun. It's a nice, lighthearted, little bit of a retro feel, a visually stunning sci-fi movie where you don't have to worry about understanding the complex extended universe like you would with something like Star Wars or Star Trek. It's something you can just have on that afternoon, enjoy it good enough. So I'm going to give it a high, Damian Wayne. It's not totally without merit.
There you go. Keenan.
To me, this is the absolute benchmark, the post in the road of middle of the road movie. This is so dead down the middle movie. Like it's not mediocre. It is definitely not that. This movie is right down the middle. It is a middle Damian Wayne. It don't get more middle than this movie, boys.
Interesting, because I'm gonna go. Bruce goes the high, you go the medium. I'm going the low Damien here. So it's as middle of the road as you can get, folks. So 3 Damiens, all of which are at a different scale on the Damien. So yeah, it's decent enough. It's visually spectacular, as most Luc Besson films are, and there's a lot of great concepts there. Doesn't all fall together, but man, you could do a lot worse.
Oh yeah.
So, all right, nice, quick, concise. I like it. Very nice. Now, next week we're doing yet another new release that's based on a comic book that people don't know is based on a comic book. We're gonna be talking about Atomic Blonde. We get to see Charlize Theron wear a couple wigs and kick people. That should be fun.
Oh yeah.
So, look, you're going to drag me to a theater and I get to look at a very attractive lady and some, cool stuff. And then, of course, you got old, Professor X in there as well. He ain't bad looking neither. But
it's a spiritual sequel to Monster.
Oh, well, that should be very interesting. Elaine Warnos has gone out and will be kicking the crap
I did not hear that.
out of everybody.
He looks a lot better in this movie.
A lot of plastic surgery. He does a lot for people, man. So we'll be covering that next week. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
Oh, man, I've done something terrible. I've got 2 relatively new things to try to plug, and you're never supposed to launch more than one thing at a time. So I'm going to lead with Chubby Wizard, Wrath of the Manticore. The audiobook is available on Audible. It's getting to be a new month soon. A lot of people's credits are going to reset. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to think of what to use your credit on, why not use it on Chubby Wizard, Wrath of the Manticore? Of course, you're absolutely free to pay for it if you don't want to use a credit. It is available on iTunes for a few dollars more, but most folks get it through Audible. And I have launched the sequel to Dragon and the Needles, Dragon and Gallus, the Lump Adventures Book 2. Somebody recently on Twitter referred to it as Game of Thrones without the chowder buckets, needless violence, and meandering plot lines. I consider that a big plus. So maybe people want to check that out too. But a new audiobook, Chubby Wizard, Wrath of the Manticore, a new regular book, Dragon and Gallus.
And eventually we'll have an HBO series, but we're still working on that. We got to get through all the initial talks and stuff. Keenan.
Where do I start? Okay, we'll do this. You can find me on Twitter at Hero Movie Sean, but I have a brand new podcast that hopefully will land on iTunes this week. We shall see. It is called Dog Eat Pod, and each week me and my heterosexual life mate Noah Lemons review family-friendly dog movies. So you know how I'm always going on about Air Bud and Air Buddies and all that? We review one of those movies each week, and hopefully you'll check it out. It is called Dog Eat Pod.
You are in for a treat, everybody. And, of course, our other podcast, Preacher Podcast, preacherpodcast.com, going strong as always, man. And a lot of cool stuff coming out of Comic-Con for that and just about everything, dude. And speaking of which, if you'd like to know what we thought of some of the things on Comic-Con, why don't you become a patron? Because in our pre-show, we talked all about that kind of stuff, man. So head on down to patreon.com/HMP and join some of the fun, man. Get the pre-show, post-show, get to vote on things. It's all good. And of course, we also want to thank our sponsor for this show again, Geek Fuel, geekfuel.com/hero movie. $6 domestic, $12 international. Get yourself over $50 worth of stuff and let them know that you love this show and you just thank them for supporting us, man. We really, really appreciate those guys. That is it, everybody. Join us next week when we talk. I've already forgotten the name of that flick. Atomic Blonde. There we go. My brain was
Atomic Blonde.
Took me